Well, hello again, everyone. So good to be with you again, and I'm so thankful that you have tuned in to this edition, Carry Your Cross. I want to wish you a pre-happy new year. I know that this is December the 28th, and I pray that every single one of you and your families just had a wonderful Christmas. But now we're looking forward to the new year. And, this year, or this past year, I should say, has been difficult on many fronts. And I'm not just talking about COVID-19. I'm not talking about the isolation that so many of us have endured and the loneliness that this virus has caused within your life, within families' lives, not just here in Cary and Cochran, but all over the world. But maybe this past year, this year that we are ending up now, 2020, maybe it's been a year that you just want to forget. Maybe you lost a loved one and you're still grieving over your loss. Maybe you even lost a job in regard to this virus. Maybe you have experienced family issues. Maybe this past year, you've gone through a divorce, or maybe you've had to deal with a wayward son or a wayward daughter. Maybe this has caused you to have bouts with depression or anxiety. And I'll even go as far to say that some have even dealt this year with drug abuse, with alcoholism. And even though we don't want to talk about it, suicide is something that is happening now as a result of all the pressures that people have endured since last March. Maybe today you're still dealing with anger. You're dealing with bitterness. You're dealing with all kinds of exasperation. And maybe, just maybe, you've gotten to the point where you have shaken a fist in the face of God and said, God, you had no right. Life is just not fair, and I just don't understand. This past June, my family and I moved back to Cary, moved back here to Mount Calvary Baptist Church to assume the position of senior pastor here. And I didn't even mention all the pressures that come along with packing and moving and, trucks and moving companies and time schedules and time frames. I mean, moving is another entity unto itself, but we made it back. And as I was reading this morning, kind of reflecting upon this year, my mind went to Isaiah chapter 43. And there are some verses here beginning in verse 2 into the first part of verse 3 that I want to share with you today. And hopefully it will encourage you to continue moving forward with faith in the midst of hope as we approach this brand new year. The Bible says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they will not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be scorched, nor will the flame burn you. For I am the Lord your God. You understand that this is God speaking to the nation of Israel. And you also understand that they were coming out of captivity in Babylon. They were breathing the fresh air once again, knowing that their freedom was at hand. They were moving out of something that was negative into freedom and their life fresh and anew that was going to be incredibly positive. But you've got to go back to the verses here and look again, because God says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they will not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be scorched, nor will the flame burn you. Notice that God doesn't say if, he says when. So even in the midst of this brand new freedom that the nation of Israel was now going to be embracing, There were still obstacles to overcome. There were going to be rivers to be passed. And you've got to understand, this was men, women, children, livestock, all of their belongings. They were going to have to pass through the rivers. They were going to have to confront fires and the pressures of smoke and all those things that they were not really wanting to think about, but they were going to have to endure on their way to freedom. And I think there's a lot of similarities, because we're moving out of a year that has been like a rushing river. We are moving out of a year where the smoke and the pressure and the fires of life have engulfed many. And as believers, we are called to move forward into a brand new year. Now, is 2021 going to be just a wonderful year with no pressure and no rivers and no fires and no hindrances? No. We would like to think that it might be, and I'm praying that it will be a much better year than the one that we're in now. But there are going to be things that we have to overcome. I think one of the biggest pressures of this past year is that none of us were really ready for COVID. I don't think many of us were really ready in regard to the things that I listed from the beginning, all of the things that we've endured this past year. But we don't know what tomorrow holds. And we don't know what next week or next month is going to be like. But the one certainty that we have is that we have a God who loves us, and He leads us, and He guides us. And in the midst of the times when we're anxious and fearful, He gives us hope as we call out to Him and as we embrace Him in a very personal and powerful way. So as we close out this year of 2020, and as we are looking forward to 2021, I'm personally praying that a lot of what we've endured this year, we can kind of put behind us. We can begin afresh and anew. But I'm not so naive to think that everything is going to be to your liking and to my liking. Life many times is not fair, but we have a God who understands. And when you face whatever obstacle it might be in 2021, know right here, if you go back to verse 1 of chapter 43, God says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." And there's no safer place to be than sitting in the lap of a God who loves you so incredibly much. He knows you by name. He knows me by name. He knows all the circumstances that we've been through and what we're going to face in 2021. But you can put one foot in front of the other, knowing that no matter where you go, no matter who you're with, no matter what circumstance you confront, God is right there with you, seeing you through everything. Happy New Year, everyone. And until we meet again, continue moving forward, continue carrying your cross, knowing that there is a God who's walking with you and giving you strength to face the pressures of a brand new day. All my love to you. This is Lane Collins, Senior Pastor here at Mount Calvary, wishing you the best year possible. Until we meet again, God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Carry Your Cross today. If you would like to view further videos, please follow us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube. God bless.